Today is World Happiness Day. And in fact, this is not just like one of these holidays that some random person came up with. Like every day is like a taco day or an elephant day. Have you ever noticed that? People just kind of come up with these random holidays. This was actually created by the United Nations General Assembly a few decades ago, World Happiness Day on March 20th, because according to the United Nations, world happiness is something we should all endeavor to have as a part of human existence. Yeah, agreed. So yearly, for about 12 years now, yearly there has been this World Happiness Report that has been published where they take polls and, collect other data from various countries around the world, and they rank the countries in terms of happiness. And so interestingly, this year, for the World Happiness Report in 2024, it is the first time in those 12 years that this report has started that the United States is no longer in the top 20 happiest countries. This year, we're number 23. Last year, we were number 15. So we've really gone down several points from last year. Also, when this report first started, we were in the top 10. So we've gone from being in the top 10 to the top 20 to now not even in the top 20. So there's a lot to say about this, but what I also find interesting is, well, what are the happiest countries? Or who? No, it is what are the happiest countries, not who are the happiest.
I have a question.
Yeah?
How do they measure happiness? I actually stumbled across this article this morning on my own.
Really?
And I also thought it was neat, maybe you're going to talk about this, that people over 60 are happy in this country.
Yes.
People under 30 are not so happy.
Yes, and that's changed. What this report says is that it used to be the case that, at least in the United States and other Western countries, young people were pretty happy. Then once you hit middle age, that kind of dipped down a bit, and then it recovered. And now they say that it's actually kind of shifted, where young people are overwhelmingly not happy. And to your point, Sean, it's those who are older who are happy, which is definitely something.
So how do they measure it?
Well, truthfully, I'm not sure. I didn't look very deeply at this report and the data. I think a lot of it is.
I'll try to find it.
Oh, you have it? Oh, you're going to try to find it. My understanding is that they take a lot of polls. Like a lot of this is self-diagnosed happiness. They ask you, like, are you content with your life? Are you content with your career? Et cetera. But you can look that up. But I'm interested who or what countries are the highest on the happiness scale. So this year, I'll just read to you the top 5. Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden. That's not shocking because all we do is hear about how happy those countries are and how much better they are compared to the United States. Interesting what number 5 is. Israel. Now that one really surprised me. Actually, I shouldn't say that. See, this is another example of evolving in real time. It both really surprised me and really didn't surprise me, to be honest. It surprised me that Israel's number 5 for the 2024 World Happiness Report in the wake of October 7th. Now, they could have taken data from the past year, and obviously some of that data predates October 7th, 2023. But still, for the 2024 World Happiness Report, Israel's number 5. But, yes, Sean, did you find the data?
I did find it. I also see Scandinavia is running away with happiness. It must be the yodeling.
That's it. Yep, you got it.
So the rankings are based on self-assessments by people in more than 140 countries in which they rate their life on scale from 0 to 10, with the best possible life for them as a 10. Among the predictors of people's happiness are not just economic well-being, the report says, but also factors including freedom, life expectancy, and social support. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, so honestly, sometimes when I hear those, I'm like, what does that even mean? By the way, I'm seeing comments. The United Nations, my fave, with a oi emoji. Yeah, I know, the United Nations. If it weren't so depressing, it would be comical, the United Nations. But back to Israel being number 5 in happiness, where the United States is number 23. As I said, this surprised me because of October 7th, obviously, and the tragic, nature of things there since then. But it actually didn't quite surprise me, because when I went to Israel 2 years ago, actually 2 years ago, right now I was in Israel, I was so amazed by the vitality and the spirit of Israelis. It really hit me when I was there. And because we met so many Israelis, we had Israeli tour guides, we go out to the clubs at night, we go out to restaurants, and at least I would talk with so many of them. And I was so blown away by their patriotism, by their love of country, by their vitality. At dinner, when you cheers, they go l'chaim, to life. Like, there was just this love of life and vitality. They also had a remarkable ability to discuss very sad things, very political things, but it was so cool, because we'd be having this intense, sad conversation. I remember one with an IDF soldier whose father died in the 6-Day War. And then we would move on to drinking together and having fun. And I realized, please cut in.
No, I confirm what you're saying. When I was
you went there,
I had the same assessment. It was like that. And I don't know about you, but before I went there, I was worried, is it safe to go there? But you get there and you realize all the people are so connected. Like, they were texting each other faster than news traveled. Like, they were all connected, and if there was an attack somewhere, they all knew about it before the authorities did. And it was not that, that could be something that would really ruin your happiness, but there was a love of life and a love of country, and the people were so warm and inviting. It was really different from what I anticipated.
It's totally different. It is, and I think a large reason for it is that Israelis know what life is. They're obligated to serve in the army, with the exception, of course, of the Orthodox. Putting that aside, most of them are obligated to serve in the army. They have daily threats to their existence, obviously, especially now. And I think everybody in Israel has had a family member or a friend die in some attack or some war. And I think their situation, which is unfortunately very sad, also in turn gives them a kind of understanding and appreciation of life that we in America in recent years have lacked, because we luxuriate in prosperity and security.
To add one thing, I think there's an intensity that we don't have. There's a real intensity. And just a funny story, I was on a tour bus, and in front of the bus there were 2 guys, and they got up in each other's faces, and they were screaming at each other. And I turned to our bus driver and said, "Is everything okay?" And he said, "Yeah." He just asked him what time it was.
No, but I would see things like that. It's so true. I was so amazed by the way that Israelis would debate with one another at the dinner table. They would get loud. They wouldn't get personal, but they would get "Come on, are you crazy? You really think that? What are you talking about? That's insane." But then at the end, they'd hug it out and they'd be fine. And here in the United States, we have a similar intensity. We have a similar calling the other side crazy, but we take it personally. They don't take it personally. They understand that it's a conversation, it's a good argument, and they're trying to get to the truth of things, and that it shouldn't be seen as an ad hominem attack. But anyway, I think that's really worthy of note, that sometimes, here in the United States, obviously we have many and ever-growing problems with homelessness and crime and fentanyl and all of those things. But really, over the past 20 to 30 years, we have luxuriated in prosperity, affluence, and security, certainly compared with other countries. And I think, interestingly, in turn, that sort of deadened us to life. We don't realize how secure and stable and prosperous we are. And when we don't see the alternative, it actually makes us appreciate life less. But yes, I think here in the United States, with the happiness rating going down, who was surprised by this? Right now, we are educated to be miserable. We're educated to hate our country. We're educated to, think that things like the nuclear family are so defective and horrible. We're educated to think that everything is patriarchal and heteronormative and cisgender heteronormative. Everything is what's wrong.
and to define yourself as a victim.
Yes.
Give yourself labels.
Oh, you guys, you have to stay tuned for the Yuri Bezmenov piece, because one of the things of ideological subversion of the Soviet Union's goals was literally victimization. You'll see it on the chart. They wanted us to think of ourselves as victims, because when you think of yourself as a victim, you are a more deadened person, you know? You are a diminished person when you are wallowing in victimhood. But this is really important. We have been raised to be miserable because we think that being miserable is like a sign of authenticity, and that's BS. So yeah, that's that. Let's try.
It's also the easy thing. It's the default. It's easy to be bitter. It's easy to be angry. It's hard to be happy and pleasurable and nice to be around and accommodating.
Well, I think I'll say one final thing about this. You're totally right about the ease. I also think that we view happiness as a kind of unnatural thing when it is quite natural. Unhappiness is not a bug in life. It's a feature of life. And I think we've lost our sense of that. Many of us think that we're entitled to be happy. We should endeavor to be happy. We shouldn't try to be, miserable. But Abigail Shrier was talking about this on her interview with Barry Weiss about Abigail's new book about therapy. And Abigail Shrier in her book writes about her grandmother who had an iron lung. She was a very sickly woman. Her grandmother's mother died in childbirth, giving birth to her grandmother. So Abigail Shrier describes her grandmother as this woman with all of these disadvantages. And yet, Abigail Shrier says, she was so happy. She was one of the most happy and resilient people that Abigail says she ever knew. And Barry Weiss said, why do you think that is? And Abigail Shrier's answer was, she didn't think that she was entitled to be happy. She thought that unhappiness was the norm, was the status quo in life. And hardship and difficulty and challenges and things going wrong was the status quo. And Abigail Shrier said her grandmother just had this worldview of when happiness did come, when you were lucky enough to have contentment or a good day, you appreciated that and you held on to that instead of thinking that you were entitled to it all the time.